Revenge of Shinobi is among the first handful of games I would get for my Sega Genesis. It was a sequel to the arcade hit Shinobi, expanding on the gameplay, enemy variety, and audio-visual presentation of that game. It's one of the platform's most recognizable titles, and a classic in every sense of the word. For me, it was a game that cemented the Genesis as the arcade fan's greatest asset at home. A system that truly aspired to be everything you were accustomed to in the arcade, and in some ways, even more. Revenge of Shinobi is definitely one of my favorite games for the system. Playing through Revenge of Shinobi wasn't a particularly difficult trip. The first half of the game is a cakewalk for the most part. Area 1 only has a few enemy types out in plain view for you to slaughter, and then a rather straightforward boss encounter. Even if you are low on shurikens, just take your time and tap that head a few times. The graphics of these areas are of the introductory variety, with nothing here to knock your socks off. The soundtrack starts strong, however, with a great beat and stereo separation. The second area introduces the possibility of falling to your death in both a waterfall and a city rooftop stage. Take your time and get used to the double jump to blow through these areas easily. The waterfall section has a jump at the end that can be troublesome for those that haven't mastered the double jump yet, and the rooftop section mainly uses enemy placement to take advantage of overzealous players. The boss here is a ninja that uses shadows as a sort of armor. You need to peel these shadows off with attacks until the lone bad guy is left. Don't be afraid to hit him with a magic attack if you run low on life. I love the graphical effect of the water area here. It has an almost hypnotic effect if you stare directly at it. The rooftop area is great as well. The lights of the skyscrapers in the distance lend a great level of depth to the background. The third area is comprised of a military base and an airplane you must fight through. The military base can actually be rather difficult the first few times you try it, mainly because a few enemies do some real damage and they are 2 levels deep, with attacks coming in the foreground and the background. Take your time, find the areas where your double jump shuriken spray attack is most effective, and you'll be through it in no time. Beware of spraying your ammo everywhere haphazardly, because running out usually means you're gonna have a bad time. The airplane is really easy, just watch out for those damn doors that will suck you out for an insta-death. If you are getting frustrated, use your invincibility magic until you plot the best path. Enemies are basically set up to knock you back a lot so you fall out the doors. The boss of this area is ultra easy. Stay away from the laser and tag the brain. Nothing to it. The fourth area is a junkyard and a factory. The first section is straightforward and you simply need to proceed with caution. Enemies take advantage of the mid and high ground here, waiting for you to jump into their attack patterns. Take it slow and steady. The second area is multi-tiered and has a few spots where you can fall victim to insta-deaths. Time your jumps wisely and you'll get through it without too many problems. There is a path that you can take by jumping on the moving items in the stage so you can bypass many of the enemy locations. You'll fight the Terminator at the end of this area. He throws things like engines and cars at you, and he has a dash attack that moves pretty damn fast. Avoid the things he tosses and light his head up with your shurikens. Again, do not be afraid to whip out the ninja magic if your life is low. The music of these 2 stages is superb, particularly the factory stage. Area 5 includes a building you must scale, as well as a bridge you must traverse. The building is fairly straightforward, with lasers being the only real danger you may have issues with. They are often placed directly in the path you must travel, and the platforms you must use to climb up. You will likely take a few deaths here, or at the very least get knocked down a fair bit. The bridge is one of those stages where there is a foreground and a background you can jump between. You need to be really careful on both planes. The foreground has the possibility of falling to your death, while the second layer is the roadway, where a speeding red car plows through every so often that does major damage to you. The red female ninjas are a pain in the ass, so watch out for them. The boss of this area is a military truck that has 3 exposed weak points that must be destroyed. The only real danger here is a spark of electricity that runs the length of the truck constantly, always trying to catch you while you attack the weak points. It's a strange battle that is actually pretty easy once you know where to stand. Stage 6 is made up of 2 sections, Chinatown and a subway. Chinatown is essentially a straight up battleground area. There aren't any cheap insta-deaths here, just an area loaded with enemies to contend with. You need to get in close to get rid of the purple guys, and avoid the jumping female warriors at all cost. There is a jump in the middle of this level that can be a pain. Just take your time and master that double jump. Now you must get through the subway section. Avoid the metal blocks in the first half and then take out a few bad guys and avoid the bombs. There's not really anything difficult here. Timing is everything. You'll face 2 bosses at the end of this stage. First is Spider-Man, who uses web attacks and an invincible rush attack from the ceiling to do damage. Stay away from the webs and time your attacks. Once he is defeated, the caped crusader himself, Batman, shows up. He basically just flies around while surrounded by bats, so keep the aggression on him and attack fast. Break out that ninja magic if need be. Different revisions will change the look of these 2, so your guys may look slightly different. Chinatown has some of the best music in the entire game. Have a listen. Stage 7 is where the game really starts to turn up the challenge. You have to make it through 2 sections here, a harbor and a munitions factory. The harbor section has ample possibilities for falling deaths, thanks mainly to enemy placement all around them. Nearly every death you take here will be from falling into the water, most likely from an enemy jumping out of somewhere you didn't see coming. I recommend the invincibility ninja magic for this area until you recognize where you need to be most cautious. Once you learn where the enemies are, the only thing left is a rather irritating jump that you must nail perfectly to get across. A few deaths will likely get soaked up here, so work on that double jump to get it right. The Munitions Factory is another battleground stage. It's straightforward with lots of gun guys continually shooting at you. No way around this area except to learn where the enemies are and deal with them. You'll find another familiar face during your boss encounter, Godzilla. This battle actually gave me a ton of trouble back in the day. He moves fast and his flame breath does a lot of damage. If you get here with your powered up shurikens, pop your invincibility magic and tear his head up. Otherwise you'll need to fight him back and forth platform to platform. Don't run out of ammo here. It's a death sentence most of the time if you do. Stage 8 was a hell of a challenge to my younger self. You'll be attacking the bad guys at the Neo-Z base head on. The first section is your assault on the outer defenses. It's set against a dark, stormy night sky with gun placements, enemies, and falling deaths all over the place. I recommend you pop the invincibility magic immediately, which will allow you to see enemy placements without being easily knocked into the water. Once you know where these guys are, you can navigate the stage without it. But of course the real challenge comes in the very last section of the game, the Ninja Maze. This is utterly brutal to the newcomer that isn't using cheats or a guide. The music is frantic, setting a tone of what you are about to go through. Doors are everywhere, and when you first get here, there is no rhyme or reason to any of them. You go through a door, and it spits you out someplace new. Before you know it, you start seeing the same places over and over again, with the dawning horror that you are basically going in circles and getting nowhere. You really need to pay attention to what doors you enter and where they take you, because your memory is your only real weapon in defeating this stage. The enemies that inhabit this place aren't particularly troublesome, but wander around long enough and they'll chip away at your life down to nothing. After some trial and error, and maybe a few deaths, you'll finally find the route that you need to get to the end, and what awaits you is pure torture. The last boss, henceforth known as Asshole, is a complete screwjob. You start this battle out in a room with a very clearly locked door. Behind this door is your woman, and the entire reason our hero is here in the first place. The last asshole ascends into view, and you are ready to beat this bastard to a pulp. While the battle rages, you begin to notice something dropping from the ceiling. A few more seconds will pass and you'll really start to take in your environment. The dropping ceiling, the locked door, the moving chains against each wall, and the laughing asshole that is in bad need of a haircut. That's right, man, your lady is about to be crushed. You frantically attack the asshole in an effort to end the battle faster. I had no idea in that first encounter that you could slow the ceiling by shooting the middle of the chains against the walls, so I just fought as valiantly as I could. Of course, with no power-ups, a single ninja magic, and only a handful of lives left, I did the only thing I could with no prior strategy. I fought through the life bar, popped my suicide magic to keep the battle going, and watched in terror as the ceiling slowly crushed the woman. I would go on to defeat the laughing asshole, but when my ninja goes to the door to check on his love, his head lowers and he falls to his knees. I knew then and there that while I had beaten Revenge of Shinobi, in a way, it had also defeated me. The ending would roll and the dour music signified my failure, as did Joe Musashi's lone figure remembering his lost bride. I would go on to play Revenge of Shinobi many more times, getting so good I could crush the game with a single life. I'd easily rescue Joe's bride many times with superior strategies in later efforts, but man did that first failure hurt. I can't deny that it was an incredibly important experience in my early ownership of the Genesis platform though. The sound and music were incredible, and the graphics were arcade quality start to finish. That last battle wasn't the first time I was exposed to the concept of failing while still beating a video game, but it certainly was one of the more memorable. Games like Revenge of Shinobi were platform-defining adventures that could endear you to hardware for the duration of its life. I'll never ever forget it, or that first journey through its incredible world in 1989. I'm Sega Lord X, thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you next time.